The old man walked alone, every day, until a teen did this. He walked the same road every morning, head down, hands in his coat pockets, as if the whole world had nothing left to offer him. And maybe it didn't. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe if you love meaningful stories, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I really enjoy seeing where these stories travel. People saw him, cars passed him, some mornings the sun was out, some mornings it rained, but he was always there, always walking, same coat, same pace, never in a hurry, but never stopping either, just moving forward like he had somewhere to be, even if no one knew where that was. He looked to be in his late 70s, thin, worn out, the kind of worn that doesn't come from age alone. It comes from years of living, years of loss. His shoes were old. The soles looked flat, like they'd stopped offering comfort long ago. His coat was faded brown, the kind that might have been expensive once but now just looked tired. He walked with a slight limp, not severe, but enough to notice. The town knew who he was, in a distant kind of way. Not by name, not by story, just as the man who walked. That's what people called him sometimes. There goes the man who walks. No one really talked to him. He didn't give them a reason to. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He didn't pause to make small talk. He just kept walking. Some said he had lost his wife. Others said he used to be a teacher. A few claimed he'd been in the military, but no one ever confirmed it. He never gave anyone a chance to ask. The truth is, people didn't try very hard. They let the story stay unknown because it was easier that way, less complicated, less messy. But he never missed a day, even on holidays, even in the snow, even when the wind cut through town like it was trying to chase people back inside. He still showed up, still walked the same path down Maple Street, past the gas station, the diner, and the bus stop where the high school kids waited every morning. That's where the teenager first noticed him. He'd see him from the bus stop, walking on the other side of the street. At first it was just background, something you see without really looking. But over time, the teen started to notice details. The way the old man walked with his head down, the way he never looked up, never looked around, the way he always passed at the exact same time, like clockwork. The teen didn't know why he kept noticing. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something else. Something quieter. Something harder to name. It wasn't pity. That wasn't it. It was more like wondering. Wondering why someone would walk like that every day, alone, without fail. Wondering what the point of it was. Wondering if there was more to the story than what people saw. Other kids didn't pay attention. They were on their phones, talking, laughing, complaining about school. The teens sometimes joined in, but every morning, just for a moment, his eyes would drift toward the man across the street. Same coat, same walk, same silence. The old man never glanced back. He never looked toward the group of kids at the bus stop. If he noticed them at all, he gave no sign. It was like they were invisible to him. Or maybe he was just used to being invisible himself. Over time, it became something the teen looked for. A kind of quiet check-in. If the man didn't appear, it would have felt wrong, like the day hadn't started properly. But he always came. Never late, never early, just there. And still, no one spoke to him. No one asked his name. No one crossed the street to say hello. Maybe they all assumed he wanted it that way. Maybe he did. Or maybe, after all these years of silence, he just forgot what it felt like to be seen. They didn't know his story, but that didn't stop them from talking about him. People in town had gotten used to the old man. He was just part of the scenery now, someone you noticed without really seeing. But every now and then, someone would say something, usually small, usually dismissive. "He's still at it, huh? Must be bored out of his mind. Probably just trying to stay busy. Old folks do that." They said it like they understood, but none of them actually knew anything about him. They didn't know where he came from in the mornings or where he went when he was done. They didn't know if he had family, didn't know if he had anyone at all. But people like to have explanations, even if they're made up. Some thought he was walking for exercise. Others figured he was just lonely and didn't want to stay cooped up inside. A few joked that maybe he was senile and didn't even realize he was walking the same route every day. They laughed like it was harmless, like it didn't matter. But it did matter, because all those assumptions, all those throwaway comments, they built a wall around him. A wall that said, "We don't need to ask. We already know." And behind that wall, the old man stayed silent. He never corrected anyone, never explained himself. If he heard the things people said, he gave no sign. He just kept walking, always in that same coat, with the same rhythm in his step, like he had somewhere to be, even if no one believed it. The man lived in a small house on the edge of town. It was the kind of place people forgot existed. Set back off the main road, hidden by trees and silence. No car in the driveway, no lights on during the day, just the house and him. Someone had seen him bring groceries home once, carrying 2 small bags in one hand while unlocking his front door with the other. They said he didn't have much, just the basics, enough to get by. He didn't go out in the evenings. He didn't attend local events. No one saw him at the diner. No one saw him at church. He walked in the mornings, and that was it. For the most part, people accepted that. They stopped asking questions. They stopped caring. Because it's easier to forget someone than to understand them. But not everyone forgot. The teenager at the bus stop kept watching, kept wondering. He started paying more attention, started looking for patterns. Noticed how the old man always glanced down at the sidewalk cracks, like he was counting them. Noticed how he always paused for a second at the corner near the old laundromat, even though there was nothing there. And slowly, questions started to form. Why did he walk like that? Why the same path? Why the same time? Did he used to live near the laundromat? Was it the last place he'd been with someone he loved? The teen didn't say any of this out loud. He just kept the questions in his head. But they were there, and they didn't go away. One morning, a friend at the bus stop laughed and said, "There goes your buddy again," nodding toward the old man across the street. The teen didn't laugh. He didn't say anything, just watched as the old man passed. There was something in the way he walked that didn't feel aimless. It felt deliberate, like there was meaning in each step, even if no one else saw it. And the more the teen watched, the more he felt like maybe the man wasn't the one who had forgotten how to connect. Maybe it was everyone else. The bus stop wasn't anything special. Just a metal bench, a rusted pole with a faded sign, and a group of teenagers who barely noticed anything outside their phones or conversations. But every morning, like clockwork, the teen sat there, earbuds half in, eyes drifting across the street. And every morning, the old man walked by. At first, it had been nothing more than a habit, a face that appeared, then disappeared. But over time, the teen started noticing things he hadn't before. The way the old man's coat hung a little looser around his frame than it used to. The way his right foot dragged just a little more each week. The way he looked down as he walked, not in thought, but like he was avoiding being seen. It wasn't sympathy. The teen didn't feel sorry for him. It was more like a connection, unspoken, distant. But there. The old man never looked up, never waved, never even glanced toward the bus stop. It was like the teenagers weren't there. Or maybe he just assumed they didn't care. And maybe most of them didn't. Some mornings, one of the other kids would make a joke. Something about the walking guy, or how he looked like a ghost from another time. It wasn't cruel, not really. Just careless. Like the kind of joke you make when something feels far enough away that it doesn't matter. But the teen didn't laugh. He couldn't explain why, not even to himself. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was how steady the man was, like he had nothing left but still kept showing up. Maybe it was how, in a world where everything moved too fast and people changed direction without thinking, the old man stayed the same. That meant something, even if the teen didn't have the words for it yet. One morning, without really thinking about it, the teen lifted his hand and gave a small nod as the man passed. It wasn't big. It wasn't obvious. Just a quiet gesture. A signal. I see you. The man didn't respond. Just kept walking. Eyes down. Hands in pockets. The next day, the teen tried again. This time he said, "Morning." Not loud. Not in a way that would get the other kids' attention, just enough that the words could carry across the street. Still nothing. The old man didn't stop, didn't look up, didn't even blink in his direction. Some kids would have taken the hint and moved on, but something about the man's silence didn't feel like rejection. It felt like distance, like a place he had gone to protect himself from a world that hadn't given him much reason to come back. So the teen kept trying. Every morning, just one word. Morning. And every morning the same quiet response. None at all. But the teen didn't give up, because deep down, he had a feeling. Not based on anything he could prove. Just a gut instinct that the man heard him. That maybe he wasn't ignoring him. Maybe he was just waiting to see if he meant it. Most of the other kids didn't notice. A few rolled their eyes, asked why he kept talking to someone who clearly didn't care. He didn't answer them. He didn't have an answer. But every time he said morning, and the man walked by without a word, something inside him said, keep going. Because maybe the man wasn't walking away from people. Maybe he was just waiting for someone to walk a little closer. It happened on a Tuesday. Cold, gray, and quiet. One of those mornings where the wind made your eyes water and your fingers go stiff no matter how deep you shoved them into your jacket pockets. The teen was at the bus stop like usual. Hood up, hands buried. He hadn't said anything yet. Just watched. Across the street, the old man appeared again, same as always. Same coat. Same shuffle. Same direction. But something was different. The teen couldn't say what it was at first. Maybe it was the way the man held himself. A little more hunched. A little slower. Or maybe it was the fact that, just before reaching the corner, he paused. Just half a second. Barely noticeable. The teen stood up. He didn't know why. Just did. And then quietly he said it again. Morning. The man didn't stop. Didn't look. But this time, just before he passed, he gave the smallest nod. It was quick. Sharp. Almost like a reflex. But it happened. The teen sat back down, not saying anything more, not reacting. But inside, something shifted. Because after all those mornings of silence, of words sent out like signals into the dark, something had finally come back. It wasn't a conversation. It wasn't a smile. But it was something. The next day, the teen tried again. Morning. This time the man nodded before the words even finished leaving his mouth. No eye contact. No expression. Just the same small nod. That was all it took. The teen didn't tell anyone about it. He didn't bring it up with the other kids. It didn't feel like something to share. It felt like something to keep. Something real in a world that didn't always feel that way. From then on, it became part of the routine. The old man walked. The teen said good morning. The old man nodded. It didn't change the world. It didn't stop the cold. It didn't make the mornings easier or the days shorter. But it mattered, because it meant the old man saw him. And it meant he was willing to be seen. The teen started noticing more after that. The way the man's hands trembled slightly when he adjusted the sleeves of his coat. The way he avoided sidewalk grates. The way his eyes, though never lifting fully, scanned the street in small glances, like he was still learning how to look again. He wondered what the man thought about during those walks. Wondered if he remembered what it felt like to talk to someone without needing a reason. Wondered if, at some point, he had decided that silence hurt less than trying. But mostly, he wondered what it meant that the man had nodded back. Because that nod wasn't just about acknowledgement. It was about trust. About letting someone in, even for a second. It was easy to overlook things like that. Easy to believe that a simple nod didn't carry weight. But it did. For a man who had walked alone for so long, it meant everything. And for a teen who didn't always understand the world around him, it meant that showing up, day after day, could matter more than people realized. So he kept saying it. Every morning. Morning. And every morning, the old man nodded. And somehow, in that simple exchange, something quiet and steady began to grow. The cold had settled in for good by then, the kind that sticks around even after the sun comes up. People moved faster in the mornings now, hurrying from cars to buildings, heads down, collars up. No one wanted to linger in the wind. But the old man still walked. His coat looked heavier now. Same color, same wear. But the shoulders sagged lower. His steps were slower, more uneven than they had been even a week before. He looked like he was carrying something heavier than what anyone could see. The teen noticed right away. He was standing at the bus stop, hands in his jacket, backpack at his feet. A couple of the other kids were joking about something behind him, but he wasn't listening. His eyes were on the street. The old man was coming, but not quite the same. He was limping more, not dramatically, but enough that it looked like every step took more from him than it gave back. He wasn't wearing gloves, and his hands were red from the cold. He looked tired, more than usual. The teen didn't say anything at first, just watched. Then, like always, he said it. Morning. He didn't expect much. The nod had become part of it now. A small piece of the day, a habit. But this time, the old man did something different. He looked up. Not all the way. Not for long. But his eyes lifted just enough to meet the teen's for half a second. It was quick, just a flicker. But it was the first time their eyes had met. And in that split second, there was something there. Something unspoken. Something real. The teen didn't say anything else. He didn't move. He just stood there, watching as the old man looked back down and kept walking. But that look stayed with him. It wasn't big, it wasn't dramatic, but it was honest. Like the man was saying, "I see you too." That moment changed something. Not everything. Not all at once. But enough. From then on, the nod came with that same brief glance. Just a second. Just enough to connect. It still wasn't a conversation. It still wasn't words. But it felt like more. Some mornings, the teen found himself getting to the bus stop a little early, just to make sure he didn't miss him. He didn't want to admit it, but he looked forward to it now. That small moment. That small exchange. And each time he wondered what it meant to the old man. If he thought about it afterward. If he looked for him, too. If maybe, for just a moment each morning, he felt less alone. One morning, the teen almost missed him. He had been late leaving the house, threw on his jacket, grabbed his bag, and ran the last block to the stop. When he got there, the old man was already halfway past. "Morning," he called, louder than usual. The man paused. It wasn't long, just a breath, a blink. But he stopped, and then, slowly, he turned his head. The nod came again, and this time there was something else, too. A small, quiet smile. It didn't last. It wasn't wide. But it was there. And that was enough. Enough to remind the teen why he kept saying hello in the first place. Enough to know it mattered. Enough to keep going. Because sometimes, the smallest things, a glance, a nod, a smile, are the only proof someone needs that they're not invisible. The days started blending together. Cold mornings, long classes, evenings that got dark too fast. But the walk, that stayed the same. Every morning the old man showed up. Same time, same route. And every morning the teen was there, waiting. What had started as curiosity had turned into something else. Not quite friendship, not something you could define easily, but it was real. A routine. A quiet thread that connected two people who hadn't said more than a few words between them. Some mornings, the teen would get there a little early, just to stand in the cold and wait. He didn't tell anyone that. It wasn't about attention. It wasn't about being seen. It was just about showing up, because he knew the man would be there. And somehow, that mattered now. And the old man? He had changed too. Not in a dramatic way, but there were signs. His shoulders didn't slump as much. His eyes didn't stay fixed on the ground. He still walked slow, still kept his hands in his coat. But each time he passed the bus stop, he looked up, met the teen's eyes, gave a small nod. Sometimes a smile. They didn't talk. Not yet. But they didn't need to. Because something had shifted. The walk was no longer silent. The space between them no longer empty. It was filled now. With presence. With understanding. With the simple fact that neither of them was alone in that moment. One morning, the teen walked to the edge of the sidewalk as the old man passed. He didn't say much, just offered something simple. "You doing okay?" The man slowed, just for a second, looked at him, not with surprise, more like quiet appreciation. "I'm all right," he said, and that was it, the first real sentence, short, plain, but honest. The teen nodded and stepped back. The man kept walking, but that exchange stuck. The next morning they didn't say anything, but the pause was there again, a moment of recognition, not forced, not awkward, just natural, like it belonged there. And then, slowly, the pattern changed. The old man started walking a little closer to the bus stop. Not right up to it, just closer than before. Enough that the space between them wasn't so wide. Enough that the gap felt less like a wall. And the teen started walking a few steps alongside him, just for a short stretch. Not every day, just sometimes, when the timing felt right. They still didn't talk much, but when they did, it was simple. "Cold this morning." "Yeah, wind's picking up." "Supposed to snow tomorrow." "Guess we'll see." It wasn't about what they said. It was about the fact that they said anything at all. And in those small exchanges, a quiet rhythm formed. A routine inside a routine. Other kids noticed. A few asked questions. One of them joked, "You walking your grandpa now?" The teen just shrugged. He didn't explain. He didn't feel the need to. Because some things don't need explaining. Some things just are. And the walk? It wasn't just his anymore. Not really. It belonged to both of them now. A stretch of sidewalk, a few quiet steps, and the kind of connection that didn't need a name. He didn't show up that morning. The teen stood at the bus stop like always, hands in his pockets, eyes on the street. But the old man never came. At first he figured maybe the man was running late. Maybe he'd overslept. Maybe he was sick. It was cold that day, colder than usual. Wind cut through the trees and made the traffic lights sway just slightly, the kind of morning that made you want to stay in bed a little longer. But the teen waited, eyes watching the corner where the man usually appeared. He never came. The teen didn't say anything to the others. They didn't notice. They were busy talking about a math test and what someone had posted on social media the night before. The bus came, the doors opened, and the teen got on without a word. But his eyes stayed on the sidewalk through the window, searching, just in case. Still nothing. The next day he looked again. Nothing. And the next. Still no sign. By the fourth day, he knew something wasn't right. The old man had never missed a day. Not for weather, not for holidays, not even during the snowstorm a few weeks back. He had always been there, walking that same stretch of sidewalk like it was the only thing left holding him up. The teen asked the bus driver on the fifth morning, "You ever see that guy who walks by every day?" he asked, trying to keep it casual. The driver nodded. "The one with the brown coat?" "Yeah. Haven't seen him lately. Thought maybe he moved, or something happened." The driver didn't seem too concerned, but the teen was. Something about the silence felt heavier now. The space where the man used to walk wasn't just empty. It was wrong. Off. Like something had been pulled out of place. He thought about knocking on doors, asking around. But the truth was, he didn't know where the man lived, didn't know his name, didn't know anyone who might have answers. And that's when it hit him. For all the mornings they'd shared, for all the nods and glances and short words, he didn't even know the old man's name. That hurt more than he expected, because in his mind, the man had become part of his day, part of his life. Someone steady, someone who showed up. And now he was just gone. The teen kept watching, every morning, just in case. Even when it felt pointless. Even when the other kids gave him weird looks for standing so still. Even when the days stretched on with no sign, no answer, no explanation. Because he had learned something over the past few weeks. Something quiet, but important. When someone shows up day after day, you start to feel like they'll always be there. And when they're not, you feel it. More than you expect. And sometimes, without even realizing it, you start to care. Even if all you ever said was morning. Even if all you ever got was a nod. It was 8 days later when he finally came back. The teens saw him from a distance, farther down the street than usual. The old man was moving slower, leaning more to one side, like something in his body had given way and hadn't quite come back together yet. His coat looked heavier, not because it had changed, but because he did. The teen stood up as he approached. The other kids kept talking behind him, but their voices faded into the background. His eyes stayed locked on the man who had once been so predictable, now looking like a stranger who had come back from somewhere hard. The old man stopped near the edge of the sidewalk, just a few feet away now. His breathing was uneven, and his hands were tucked deep into his pockets. For a second, it looked like he might keep walking. But then he didn't. He looked up. The teen didn't speak first. He didn't want to push. He just waited. The old man took a breath, slow and steady, and then said, "Had a fall." His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it much lately. "Wasn't serious," he added, "but I couldn't get out. Doctor said to rest." The teen nodded. He didn't ask for more. He didn't need the details. The man had shown up. That was enough. The old man looked at him for a moment longer. "Didn't think anyone would notice I was gone." His tone wasn't bitter, just honest. The teen didn't know what to say to that, but he felt something in his chest tighten, something small and real. "I noticed," he said quietly. That was all. No big speech, no explanation, just the truth. The man nodded, almost like he didn't expect that answer but appreciated it more than he could say. He looked away briefly, back down the road where he'd just come from. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It just hung there, calm. Then the man glanced back. "You still saying good morning?" The teen smiled, just a little. "Yeah." The man gave a small, tired smile of his own. "All right then." He took a step forward, slow but steady. The limp was still there. He was clearly in pain, but he moved like someone who had decided showing up was worth it, even if it hurt. The teen didn't say anything else. He just walked a few steps with him, down the sidewalk, away from the bus stop. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. When they reached the corner, the old man paused. "Thanks," he said, almost under his breath. The teen looked at him, unsure whether to respond. But before he could speak, the man gave him one more look, steady, clear. "Most people just walk past," he said, "but you didn't." Then he turned and kept walking, one slow step at a time, coat brushing against his sides, shoulders stiff but upright. The teen stood there for a while, watching until the old man faded down the road, just like he used to. But it felt different now. He wasn't just watching a man walk. He was watching someone come back. And maybe, for the first time in a long while, the old man wasn't walking just to keep busy. Maybe he was walking because he knew someone would be waiting. The next morning was quiet. Clear skies, crisp air, the kind that made your breath visible and the ground crunch beneath your shoes. The teen was already at the bus stop when the old man came into view. Same coat, same slow pace. But there was something steadier in the way he walked now, like he was no longer carrying the full weight alone. The teen didn't wait this time. He stepped away from the bench and met the man partway down the sidewalk. Not far, just a few steps, enough to close the space. They didn't say anything at first. They just fell into step together, the sound of shoes on pavement filling the silence. The teen didn't try to make it anything more than what it was. He knew by now that wasn't needed. They walked the stretch past the gas station, past the diner, to the corner near the old laundromat, the same spot where the man always paused. He still paused there, just for a second, but this time he looked over at the teen. "Used to come here with my wife," he said, voice low. "Years ago." The teen didn't ask questions. He just nodded. "She liked to do the laundry early, before anyone else showed up. Said it gave her peace." He looked at the building for a moment longer, then kept walking. That was all he shared. Nothing more. But it was enough to let the teen know he had been walking towards something all this time. Not just out of habit, not just to stay busy. It was memory. It was grief. It was love. Carried quietly down the same sidewalk each day. They reached the end of the block where the teen usually turned back for his bus. He slowed, then stopped. "I'll see you tomorrow," the teen said. The man looked at him, a soft nod forming. "Yeah, tomorrow." The teen headed back toward the stop, the sound of the bus growing in the distance. Behind him, he could hear the man's footsteps continuing down the road. No one mocked the man anymore. No one pointed. Maybe the others still didn't understand, but they had seen enough to know there was more to the story, and that was enough to quiet the jokes. The walk had changed. Not completely, not outwardly, but enough. The old man no longer felt like someone drifting through town unseen. And the teen, he no longer felt like just another kid at the bus stop. Something had passed between them. Something honest. Something that couldn't be explained in a sentence or shown in a photo. It was the kind of connection that happens when two people simply show up, day after day, without needing anything in return. The man still walked alone most mornings, but not in the same way. Because even on the days when the teen didn't say anything, when he stayed at the stop and let the man pass without a word, the connection was still there, built quietly over time, steady, unshakable. And the teen knew now that showing up could matter more than he ever thought. So each morning, he kept looking down that street, waiting for the familiar figure in the brown coat. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. And the old man kept walking, not because he needed to fill the hours, but because someone was waiting. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy meaningful stories like this, we'd love to have you as a subscriber.